The flight of shadows. The plane sat on the tarmac, its polished exterior gleaming in the midday sun. Passengers filed in, their faces alight with anticipation, eager for the journey ahead. Among them was an old woman, her posture stooped but her gaze sharp. Around her neck hung a string of black beads, dull with age, their once polished surfaces scarred as though burned. She moved slowly, as if the weight of an invisible burden pressed on her shoulders. Her seat was near the back, away from the chatter of excited voices. When the engines rumbled to life, she clutched the beads tightly in her hands, her lips moving in a soundless prayer. The plane took off smoothly, soaring into the clouds. For a time, the passengers laughed and talked, their voices mingling with the hum of the engines. But an unease began to creep through the cabin, a chill that seemed to settle into the very air. It began subtly, a flicker of the cabin lights, a faint vibration beneath the passengers' feet. The old woman noticed it first. Her eyes darted to the window, where the clouds outside had darkened unnaturally, swirling like ink spilled into water. A sudden jolt rocked the plane. Passengers gasped, gripping their armrests. The seatbelt sign blinked on, and the captain's voice crackled through the speakers, steady but tense. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. We're experiencing some unexpected turbulence." The old woman's knuckles whitened as she clutched her beads. She had heard the stories, the warnings whispered by the elders of her village. A curse, they had called it, an ancient pact broken generations ago. The skies, they said, would forever be haunted for those of her bloodline. Another jolt struck, harder this time, and the plane lurched. Screams erupted as oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling. The darkness outside the windows deepened, no longer clouds but an abyss of shifting shadows. "It's coming," the woman murmured, her voice trembling. The passenger beside her, a young man, turned to her with wide eyes. "What's coming?" "The shadow of the curse," she whispered. "It doesn't forgive, it doesn't forget." The plane shook violently, metal groaning under the strain. The lights flickered again, and for a moment, the cabin was plunged into darkness. When the lights returned, the old woman stood, gripping the seatbacks for support. Her voice, though frail, carried over the chaos. "Leave them. It is me you want," she cried, her words directed at the unseen force outside. "Spare them and take what is yours." A deafening roar filled the air, as if the plane itself was screaming. The passengers froze, their terror mingling with confusion. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the turbulence stopped, the plane steadied, the roar fading into an eerie silence. The old woman sank back into her seat, her face pale but calm. The black beads around her neck crumbled into dust, scattering onto the floor. When the plane landed safely hours later, the